I still remember the noise of the bathroom door knocking so hard that the whole wall shivered. It was 7 a.m. of a Saturday, and my father left with a red face of anger, shouting my mother's name as if she had committed a crime. "Rita, Rita, what the hell did you do with my shampoo?" His cry echoed the whole house, making the windows of the window vibrate. I was in the kitchen drinking coffee when I heard his heavy steps down the stairs, every step sounding like a hammer hitting my chest. The noise of his slippers dragging on the cold floor mixed with the bad words he murmured between his teeth. My mother dropped the frying pan in the sink so hurriedly that the hot oil splashed everywhere. She burned herself. I saw the pain she made, but didn't even care. He ran until he dried his hands on the flowered apron he had been wearing for years, with that look of those who already knew he was going to blame for something he hadn't even done. "What is it, Marcos? What happened?" she asked in a low voice, almost whispering, as if it spoke too loudly. It was causing an even greater explosion. "My shampoo! Someone has moved my shampoo. It's completely different, with a strange smell, a strange color. You changed. Have you always stirring my things?" He shook the bottle in front of her face like a gun. I saw the liquid rocking inside, lighter than usual, and felt my stomach wrap. I looked at the mug in my hand, the coffee getting cold between my trembling fingers. The heart shot, because I knew exactly what had happened. The night before, after taking a shower, I realized that my shampoo was over. And since my father was never at home, always coming late, always in a hurry, I thought, he won't even notice if I use a little of his. But when I opened his bottle, I saw that it was almost empty too. So I had the brilliant idea of mixing with my mother's, those cheap pharmacy she bought in the bag, just to yield more. I completed the bottle to my mouth, shook well, and thought I had solved the problem. I thought it was nothing, that he wouldn't even notice, as I was wrong. Context, the mother's world. Let me tell you what our life was like first of all to crumble. My mother, Rita, was one of those women who was completely donated for her family. I woke up at 5 a.m. every day to make coffee very hard the way my father liked it, prepare the lunch he took in a thermal lunchbox for the work, get the whole house, take me to school, to get dinner, to do iron, to pass iron in each piece. A routine that was repeated for 15 years of wedding, 7 days a week, 306 days a year. She was a cleaning assistant in a medical clinic in the city center and worked half a time to take care of me in the house. I left at 6 a.m. and came back noon, always running to arrive in time to pick me up at school. It earned little, very little indeed, a minimum wage that barely paid house bills. Meanwhile, my father, Marcos, was a supervisor in a construction company and earned almost 4 times more than her. But do you know how he treated her money? As if it were alms, as if it were pleas he would let her work. "This little stroke that you get badly, pay the energy from home," he used to talk, always with that mockery smile, especially when he had a visit. "If it wasn't for me to play this house, you two would be on the street." My mother swallows dry and was still working, saving every penny. She was putting pennies in a soluble coffee glass jar to buy my school materials. He used a Royal and 99-cent shampoo from those coming in a bag, because he couldn't afford to spend nonsense. Her clothes were always the same, washed and well cared for, but old. I remember a blue blouse she had worn for over 5 years, always mending the holes that appeared. The shoes, meadowed more than once by the sapataire of the corner. She cut her own hair in front of the bathroom mirror, always leaving the ends crooked, because she couldn't pay a salon. He wore lipsticks he got on his day on Mother's Day, only on special occasions, and yet applied so little that he lasted all year round. Meanwhile, my father wore shampoo imported from 50 Rays, French perfume that cost more than my mother's entire salary. Brand clothes he bought at the mall. Social shoe, golden watch, sungey glasses. "I work outside. I need to introduce myself to customers," was his excuse. "I can't get poorly dressed at work, like you two who stay at home all day." At the age of 13, I didn't quite understand this difference, but I felt in my chest that there was something very wrong, whereby my mother, who worked as much as he, who left home before him and still took care of everything alone, couldn't she have the same things? Why did she save even on soap, while he spent a fortune on products he sometimes didn't even use? First humiliation, the explosion, going back to that Saturday morning that changed everything. My father continued to scream, walking in circles through the kitchen like a lion in the cage, and my mother increasingly confused and scared. "Marcos, I swear I don't move anything from you. You know I don't even use these expensive things. I don't even touch your things." Her voice came out shaky, almost tearful. She cheered the apron in her hands, a craze she had when she got nervous. "Don't lie to me," he shouted, throwing the shampoo bottle on the kitchen floor so hard that I thought the floor would crack. The noise of the glass shattered echoed the whole house, made me jump from the chair and knock some of the coffee on the table. "Look this color. Look this smell. "This is not my usual shampoo." He pointed to the shards as if they were proof of a heinous crime. I looked at the pieces of glass scattered on the floor and the liquid mixing in a strange and sticky pool. It was true. It was different, clear, less viscous, with a sweet perfume that was definitely not the male and imported smell. It looked more like the smell of my mother's cheap shampoo. "You spoiled a 50 reais shampoo." 50 reais, Rita. "Do you know how much it is? It's almost a full day of work for a person like you who gets a misery." He spoke as if 50 reais were millions, gesturing with his hands, his injected eyes of anger I had never seen before. It was as if my mother had burned money in front of him. My mother got pale, whiter than the kitchen walls. The tears began to form in her eyes, making them shine, but she held, always held, especially in front of me. She never cried when I was seeing. "Marcos, please let the voice low. Marina is here. The neighbors will hear." Marina who learns how to respect the things of others, and the neighbors who really hear. He looked at me with those angry eyes, as if I was an accomplice of some conspiracy against him, and then returned to my mother with even more fury. "You will replace this shampoo with your money. I don't even want to know if you'll have to cut off the market, the pharmacy or whatever. You spoiled, you pay, and I want the receipt to make sure you bought exactly the same." 50 reais. It was almost a third of my mother's salary only in shampoo. Money she kept to buy food, medicine, my stuff from school. She swung her head slowly, agreeing, as she always did when he humiliated her in front of me, as if it were natural to accept the guilt for something I hadn't even done. And at that moment, watching my mother bend once again before his screams, I felt anger grow in my chest, a child's anger, confused, but intense. I had to tell the truth. I had to assume that I was the one who moved in the shampoo. But when I opened my mouth to speak, something very strange happened. The first sign, disturbing discovery. While my mother was down to put the glass shards with trembling hands, crying softly, I noticed something that made me completely cold. In the middle of the puddle shed shampoo, stuck to the sticky liquid, there were hair, several wires, long and wavy. It was not hair of my father's hair, which were dark brown, straight, and always cut very short. They were long, wavy, and blonde strands, golden blonde, like those magazine models. Blondes like Silvana's hair, the secretary of his company that I had seen a few times when he took me there to go for a walk on the weekends that was with me. A tall woman, always well made up, with a very white smile and long red nails. My heart began to beat faster, as if I had run to school. I looked at my father, who kept shouting at my mother, pointing her finger in her face, and then to those golden wires blending with the shampoo on the cold floor of the kitchen. "How did you have a blonde woman's hair in my father's shampoo?" "Mother," I started talking with a choked voice, but she interrupted me. "Go to your room, Marina. Go study, that is better." "But Mom, I need to say something important." I said to go to the room. It was my father who shouted this time, making me jump. "And close the door. I don't want to hear adult conversation." I climbed the stairs slowly, with her legs wobbly and trembling. It was not just for his fear, but for that strange discovery that could not take off his head. Each degrau, I saw those blonde wires more clearly stuck to the floor. Why did you have a blonde woman's hair in my father's shampoo? The final discovery. I closed my bedroom door and sat on the bed, trying to organize my thoughts. My father did not live with blonde women, at least not that I knew. My mother had light brown hair, almost shoulder, always stuck in a simple ponytail. My grandmother was a gray. Our neighbors were dark, or had dark hair. So where did those wires come from? It was at this moment that I began to pay attention to things that once went unnoticed. As my father always arrived too late at work, sometimes only after 9 at night, saying he had meeting or extra time. As he took a long shower before dinner, always with the door locked and the sound of the shower drowning out any conversation. As he hid his cell phone, turning the screen down when he was at the table, and walked away to answer when he played. 3 days after that Saturday, while my mother was working and I was alone at home after school, I decided to investigate deeper. The heart was hitting hard when I climbed to my parents' room and entered their bathroom. I opened the closet where my father kept his hygiene products. There was a new bottle of shampoo, sealed, exactly the same as what had spoiled. He had already bought another, spending 50 reais while my mother was still gathering pennies by penny to replenish what he was supposed to waste. But that's when I looked more at the bottom of the closet, that I found something that made my world stop completely. Hidden behind the other products, right in the corner, had a small box of red velvet. My hand trembled when I took her. It was heavy, the kind that keeps face jewelry. I opened slowly, almost unable to breathe. Inside was a golden, delicate alliance with a bright pebble that reflected the bathroom light. It was beautiful, much more beautiful than the simple gold alliance my mother wore, and stuck to the box velvet cushion. More blonde wires, exactly the same as those on the kitchen floor. My mother did not wear a wedding covenant, a smooth ring my father had bought in a simple jewelry store for 15 years ago. And I definitely had no blonde hair. Who was the owner of that covenant? And why was my dad hiding her in our bathroom, along with the blonde wires I had found in his shampoo? A small exchange in the bathroom. I thought it was nothing, but what I found in his hair was beginning to destroy my mother's world. And I didn't even imagine this was just the beginning of a discovery that would change our family forever. The following week, I started paying attention to every detail of my father's routine. And that's when I noticed that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the days he arrived later, he always came with a different perfume stuck to his shirt. A sweet, feminine perfume, which was definitely not his. And it was on one of these Tuesdays that I decided to do something that would change everything. I followed my hidden father until I found out where he really spent the nights. What I saw that day made me understand that the hidden covenant was just the beginning of a much greater lie. After finding that hidden covenant, I couldn't sleep anymore. I was awake at night listening to the noises of the house, paying attention to every movement of my parents. It was as if a veil had come out of my eyes, and now I saw things that once went unnoticed. The following Monday, when my father went to work, I decided to take a test. I grabbed an old notebook and started writing down his schedules, what time it was left, what time it was, what excuse I gave when it arrived late. Meeting with customer, Monday, arrived 9:30 p.m. Problem in the work, Tuesday, arrived 10:15 p.m. Extra time, Wednesday arrived 8:45 p.m. But what caught my attention most were not the schedules. It was his behavior when he got home. My father has always been a dry, uncomfortable person, but lately it was different. More annoyed, more impatient, as if you were always in a hurry to leave again. He arrived, showered, had dinner in silence, and locked himself in the room with his cell phone. When my mother was trying to talk about the day, about the accounts of the house, about me, he responded with monosyllables, or simply ignored. Marcos, Marina's teacher, asked her parents to go to school Friday. It's about the grades. Can you go? I will be working at the clinic. See if you can change the duty. But Marcos, you know it's hard to change. If I miss, they discount salary, then turn around. And he climbed to the bedroom, leaving my mother alone in the kitchen, washing the dishes with teary eyes. It was as if our family had become just a place where he was going to sleep and bathe. Flashback, as it was before. It was not always like that. I remember when I was smaller, about 8, 9 years old, my father still had moments of affection with my mother. She was not the most romantic husband in the world, but at least paid attention to her. I remember a specific Mother's Day, when he came home with a bouquet of yellow flowers, of these simple, supermarket, but they made my mother's eyes shine like imported roses. For the best mother in the world, he said, kissing her face. My mother was so happy that she put the flowers in a glass jar and left right in the center of the room table. He changed the water every day, took the withered leaves, took care of them like a treasure. When the flowers finally died 2 weeks later, she kept one of the dried petals in the middle of the Bible. I also remembered Sundays when he was home and helped my mother extend clothes in the clothesline. They talked about silly things, about the neighbor who had bought a new car, about the soap opera on television. My mother laughed at his bad jokes, and he smiled as she hummed while preaching her clothes on the clothesline. But that was a long time ago. For at least 2 years, I didn't see my father give my mother a right hug. 2 years ago, he stopped asking about my school, my grades, my friends. It was as if we had become invisible to him. And now, looking back, I could locate exactly when this change started. It was around the time that he started to arrive late, always with excuses of work. That's when he started to lock the bathroom door to bathe. That's when he started hiding his cell phone. That's when Silvana came in to work at his company. New discoveries, perfume, and connections. On Thursday of that same week, I decided to pay more attention to the details. When my father came home at 10 p.m., saying that I had gathering with supplier, I hid on the stairs to watch him. He was different. The messy hair, the dull shirt, and there was something in the air, a sweet, feminine smell that sticks to his clothes. It was not the male perfume he wore in the morning before leaving to work. When he climbed to bathe, I heard him locking the door more carefully than normal, and then I heard a soft noise that made me freeze. He was talking on his cell phone inside the bathroom, his voice low, almost whispering. I climbed slowly to the corridor and pasted the ear at the door. I can't talk now. She's here. Pause. Tomorrow I call you. At lunchtime. Longer break. Me too. Until tomorrow. And then I heard the noise of the shower water starting to fall. I ran down to my room, my heart beating so hard that I thought I was going out my mouth. Who was her? Why couldn't he talk? And why were you talking on the phone hidden in the bathroom? The next day, Friday, I decided to make an experience. I pretended I had forgotten a book at home and returned from school at lunchtime. My mother was working. My father should be in the company, or at least that's what I thought. When I arrived near our street, I saw his car parked around the corner. half hidden behind a large tree. My heart fired. Why was he standing there instead of working? I hid behind the neighbor's gate and watched. 5 minutes later, I saw my dad get his cell phone and make a call. "Hello, it's me. You can talk now. Rita is working and the girl is at school." Even from afar, you could realize that he was smiling, a smile I hadn't seen for a long time, especially when he talked to my mother. No, she doesn't suspect anything. Yesterday, she even apologized to the shampoo. My stomach rapped. He was talking about the episode of the shampoo I had mixed, but my mother had taken the blame. Yeah, poor thing, she's very naive, never suspects anything. The way he said "poor thing" left me with anger that I had never felt before. It was not a loving word. It was mocking. He was laughing at my mother, her ingenuity, her trust in him. "Don't worry, love. Soon we will be able to be together without hiding." Love. He called someone love, and it wasn't my mother. The discovery of betrayal. First tests. I remained hidden until he turned off the phone and leave. Only then ran home, shaking from legs to head. I entered my parents' room and opened the bathroom closet again where the box was hidden with the alliance. This time, I looked more carefully, and I found other things I had not seen before. Behind the perfume glasses, there was a small envelope of these cards. Inside, a photo. A picture of my father hugged with a blonde woman, smiling, somewhere that looked like a chic restaurant. It was Silvana. I recognized it on time, but it was not a work photo, those who take a party from the company. They were stuck, he with his arm around her waist, she with his head resting on his shoulder, the two wearing golden wedding rings that shone in the light of the photo, the same alliance that was hidden in the velvet box. My hands trembled so much that I almost dropped the picture. I turned her, and on the verse was written with a feminine letter, "To my love, our honeymoon in Gramado. I love you forever. S. Honeymoon." They had gone to a honeymoon. While my mother saved cents to be able to pay home bills, my father was spending money on a honeymoon with another woman. I returned the picture to the place with trembling hands and closed the closet. I went down to the kitchen and sat on the table, trying to process everything I had discovered. My father was cheating on my mother. It wasn't just a case, a nonsense. It was serious, planned. They had even traveled together, taken pictures like a real couple. And the worst, he laughed at my mother's ingenuity. Laugh how she was, poor thing, for trusting him. And the innocent mother, hide pain. When my mother arrived from work that day, I looked at her with other eyes. She entered home tired, as always, with her hair stuck with sweat because she came by bus in the heat. He took his shoes at the door, put the apron, and went straight to the kitchen to prepare dinner. "Hi, my love. How was it at school today?" she asked, kissing me on the forehead. "It was normal," I said, trying not to show the knot I had in my throat. She started peeling potatoes to make puree, humming an old song that always sang when she was happy. But I realized that her smile didn't come to my eyes. There was a sadness there, a sadness that you might always have existed, but I had never stopped to see. "Mother, are you okay?" She stopped peeling the potato and looked at me, surprised by the question. "Of course I am, daughter. Why question?" "I don't know. You look a little sad." She forced a bigger smile and peeled the potatoes again. "Imagine, Marina. I'm just tired of work. Today it was a running day at the clinic, but I saw it wasn't just tiredness. It was something deeper, more painful, as if a part of it was slowly erasing, day after day, without anyone noticing. "Do you like Daddy?" I asked suddenly, unable to control myself. This time she really stopped everything she was doing and looked at me with a strange expression. "What question is this, Marina? It's just that you don't talk anymore. He arrives late, goes straight to the shower, dinner, and sleeps. You don't even kiss anymore." She stayed a few seconds in silence, stirring the potato in the pan unnecessarily. "Daddy works hard, daughter. He's stressed, worried about the things at work. It's a phase that already lasts 2 years." She looked at me scared, as if she didn't know I paid attention to these things. "Not quite, Marina. Mom, when was the last time you went to the cinema together? Or did he give you flowers? Or that you talked about something that wasn't to pay?" The tears began to form in her eyes, but she tried to disguise, turning her face to move dinner. "It's not quite like that," she repeated, but her voice came out weaker. At that moment I understood that my mother knew something was wrong. Maybe she didn't know exactly what, but she felt. I felt in the skin, heart, in the soul. So she was always trying to please, always apologizing for things she had not done, always accepting the humiliations in silence. She was afraid of losing the little she still had. On Saturday morning, 2 weeks after all this, something that would change our lives have happened forever. My father said he was going to solve some problems on the work and left early, around 8 in the morning. My mother stayed at home cleaning the house, and I was in my room doing a lesson. At about 10 o'clock, he ran the landline. My mother answered in the kitchen. "Hello?" Silence on the other side. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Then a feminine, nervous voice began to speak. and from my room I could hear everything. "Rita? Is Rita Marcos's wife?" "Yes, who is talking?" "Look, I didn't want to have to do that, but you need to know something about your husband." My mother was changed. I slowly went down to the stairs and listened. "Who are you?" my mother asked with a trembling voice. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that Marcos has been cheating on you for 2 years. I have evidence. Photos, messages, travel proofs. If you want to see, you will find me today at 3 p.m. in the church square," and hung up. My mother stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding the phone, white face as paper, and I, hidden on the stairs, finally understood that my mother's world was about to collapse once and for all. After they turned off in my mother's face, the house was immersed in a heavy silence, as if the air had thickened. I remained hidden on the stairs, watching her stop in the middle of the kitchen, holding the phone like a bomb about to explode. For almost 5 minutes, my mother didn't move. It just took a deep breath, slowly, as if every breath hurt in the chest. Then, very slowly, he put the phone back on the hook and sat in one of the chairs of the table. She supported her elbows on the table and hid her face between her hands. It wasn't crying yet, but I knew the tears were coming. It was always like this with my mother. First the shock, then the silence, only then the tears. I went down slowly to the kitchen, pretending to hear nothing. "Mom, is everything okay?" She raised her face quickly, trying to pretend she was normal, but his eyes were red and his hands shake. "Of course, daughter. Why wouldn't it be?" It was impressive how my mother always tried to protect me, even when her world was collapsing. Even with a shaky voice, even with her pale face, she tried to smile at me. "Who called?" I asked, testing if she would tell the truth. Mistake. Someone looking for someone else. Lie. I knew it was a lie. She knew I knew, but neither said anything. It was as if we had a silent agreement to protect each other. The rest of the morning went slowly. My mother cleaned the house like a desperate, rubbing every corner as if she wanted to erase something more than dirt. At 2 p.m, she showered, got ready with the most beautiful clothes she had, a blue blouse she only wore to go to church, and said she was going out. "I'm going to the pharmacy to buy a medicine. I'll be back soon." One more lie, but this time I didn't question. The meeting in the square, the revealed truth. After my mother left, I couldn't stand at home. A strange force pulled me to find out what was going on. At the age of 13, I had no sense of the seriousness of the situation, but I felt in the chest that our life was changing at that very moment. 15 minutes after she left, I took my bike and pedaled to the church square. I hid behind the large trees that were on the other side of the street, from where I could see the benches of the square. My mother was already there, sitting alone in a bench, stirring nervously on the bag of the bag. She looked everywhere, clearly tense, as if committing a crime just being there. At 3 p.m, a woman approached. He was a brunette, about my mother's age, wearing a simple black dress and sunglasses. She sat next to my mother and started talking. I was too far to hear, but I could see their body language. The woman took a large envelope out of her bag and handed it to my mother. When my mother opened and began to look at what was inside, I saw the exact moment her world collapsed. She put her hand to her mouth as if to vomit. The whole body bowed forward, as if he had punched his stomach. The tears began to drain under the sunglasses she had put to disguise. The woman kept talking, showing other things from the envelope. Photos, for what it seemed. Papers. Vouchers. My mother shook her head, denying something, but the woman insisted, pointing to the photos, explaining something that made my mother cry even more. After about 20 minutes, the woman got up, left the envelope with my mother and left. My mother was alone in the bench, holding that envelope as if he was going to burn his hands. I pedaled back home as fast as I got. I arrived before her and pretended to watch television when she entered. The silent confrontation, my mother and the evidence. My mother entered the house with her eyes swollen to cry but trying to disguise. She went straight to her room, and my father locked the door and stayed there for over an hour. I climbed and down the stairs trying to hear something, but I could only hear muffled sobs. From time to time, the noise of paper being handled. She was looking at the tests, one by one, understanding the extent of betrayal. When my father arrived at work at 7 p.m, my mother was still locked in the room. He was surprised. "Where's your mother?" he asked, throwing the keys on the table. "It's in the room. I think it's feeling sick." He went up and knocked on the door. "Rita, what are you doing inside?" Silence. "Rita, open this door. I'm going, Marcos. Only you minute." Her voice was choking, different. Even my father, who didn't pay much attention to her lately, realized that something was wrong. 5 minutes later, my mother left the room. Water had passed in the face, combing her hair, but her eyes were still red. "What happened to you? Are you sick?" he asked, more out of obligation than for real concern. "Just a strong headache. It has improved." She went down to the kitchen and started preparing dinner as if nothing had happened. But I saw that his hands shake when he took the pans. I saw that she needed to lean on the sink sometimes, as if her legs were to fail. During dinner, the mood was strange. My father ate in silence, checking his cell phone several times. My mother barely touched the food, just pushed the food from side to side on the plate. "Won't you eat?" he asked, annoyed. "Did you do the food and don't eat?" "I'm not hungry." The headache took my appetite. "Then take a medicine, and for drama." I saw the way my mother looked at him right now. It was no longer the look of admiration, love, submission she always had. It was a different look, as if she was finally seeing who he really was. The discovery of the envelope, the concrete tests. In the early hours of that night, I woke up thirsty and went down to the kitchen to drink water. When I passed the room, I saw a low light from my parents' room. The door was ajar. I approached slowly and peered. My mother was sitting on the bed, still dressed, with the envelope open on her lap. My father slept heavily on her side, snoring. There were photos scattered on the bed. Even in the dark, I managed to see some. Photos of my father with Silvana in restaurants, in motels, hugging, kissing. There were also rolls that looked like credit card vouchers, hotel receipts, bank transfer voucher. My mother was holding one of the photos near the lamp, looking carefully. It was a picture of him with Silvana in a hotel bed, both without clothes, smiling at the camera. On the nightstand by the bed was the golden alliance I had found hidden in the bathroom, the same alliance he had given to another woman, while telling my mother that she had no money to change her simple alliance, who was getting dark after 15 years of use. There was a letter, too. My mother opened and started reading in silence. I could see the tears dripping on the paper. After a few minutes, she gathered everything, put back in the envelope, and hid under her pillow. He lay next to my father, but he was his back to him, shrunk on the edge of the bed, as if he didn't want to feel the warmth of his body. I went back to my room with a tight heart. My mother had discovered the whole truth about my father and Silvana, but she still didn't know what to do with this information. Gaslight. Manipulation begins. The next day, Sunday, my father was more affectionate than usual. Rare thing. He woke up early, made coffee, something he never did, and even bought sweet bread in the bakery. "Good morning, my love," he said to my mother, kissing her face. My mother stiffened with the touch, but tried to disguise. "Good morning," she replied without looking at him. "You're strange since yesterday. Are you sure it's just a headache?" He was testing her. I realized on time. It was as if he knew something had changed, but I didn't know exactly what. "I'm fine, Marcos." "Good. I thought you were suspicious of something," he said, laughing. "You know what women are like, always finding it in egg." The way he said he shivered me. It was almost like he was teasing her, testing if she knew something. My mother looked at him in the eyes for the first time since she had discovered the tests. "Why would I be suspicious?" I don't know. Sometimes you women get paranoia, think we are doing something wrong just because it works a lot. It comes late." He was still smiling, but there was something cruel in that smile, as if he was having fun with the situation. "And you're doing something wrong, Marcos?" The question came out straight, bluntly. I held my breath. He laughed and shook his head. "Of course not, Rita. What question is this? You know me. I'm a one-woman man." The lie came out so natural from his mouth that even me, who knew the truth, almost believed. My mother was silent, stirring coffee in the cup without drinking. "It's just that sometimes I feel you are different with me. Farther. Different how? I don't know. It's just a feeling. Rita, you need to leave home more. It's here all day, just cleaning, working, taking care of the girl. Your head is full of worms." And then came the low blow. "Maybe you should look for a psycholega. These paranoia are not normal in a married woman." My mother turned red with anger but swallowed the answer. I saw her internal fight. I wanted to throw the photos in his face, wanted to scream, wanted to expose all the lie. But at the same time, I was afraid. Fear of confrontation, fear of losing family, fear of being alone with a daughter to raise. I own the veiled threat, lose everything. For the rest of Sunday, my father continued with the strategy of making my mother feel crazy. Each time she tried to touch the subject of their relationship, he diverted or made it look like she was imagining things. "Marcos, can I ask you a question?" "Of course. Do you still love me?" He stopped watching television and looked at her like an absurd question. "What question is this, Rita? Of course I love. Why would I be here if I didn't love? It's just that we haven't talked well for a long time. It doesn't come out." "No, Rita, he interrupted, shaking his head. "We have been married for 15 years. We have not been girlfriends anymore. It's normal for the relationship to be more mature, more seriously, but we don't do anything else together. You arrive late, take a shower, dinner, and sleep. On the weekends you are watching television or go out with friends. And what do you want? What do I stick to you all the time? I work all week. I have the right to relax on the weekend. That's not it, Marcos. It's just that I feel that you have no interest in me, in our family." "Look," he said, getting up from his armchair and standing in front of her. "If you're not happy with the wedding, Just talk. No one is forcing you to stay here. The tone has changed. It was no longer the condescending tone of those who treat his wife as if she were crazy. It was a threatening tone. But if you leave, he continued, don't take the girl. Child gets with her father, who is able to support. You get a misery. You don't even have a home of your own. Where were you going to live with Marina? At your mother's house? My mother paled. She knew he was right. Legally, financially, she couldn't take me. The house was his. The money was his. The car was his. She had nothing. And another thing, he continued, getting closer. If you go out spreading a lie about me, saying that I have another woman, that I do not provide, you know how small town. Everyone will know that you are a wife who could not hold her husband at home. No one will pity you. They will say you are crazy, paranoid, who invented history to make a victim. He was very close now, speaking low so I don't hear from the kitchen where he was pretending to do a lesson. So think about what you're going to do, Rita. He thinks really. That night, after my father went to sleep, my mother came to my room. She sat on the edge of my bed and stared at me in the dark. Marina? Hi, Mom. If one day we had to go live elsewhere, just me and you, would you be sad? The question took me by surprise. Why are we moving? No. It's just a question. Like, if Mom had to work harder, make more money, so we can get a little house of ours, would you help me? Sure, Mom. But why are you saying that? She was silent for a few seconds. For nothing, daughter. Just thinking about the future. She kissed me on the forehead and left the room. The next day, Monday, when I returned from school, I found my mother crying in the kitchen, holding a letter in hand. Mother, what happened? She showed me the letter. It was from the city's law firm and subpoena. My father was asking for legal separation, claiming that my mother had psychological disorders and paranoid behavior. He wanted the full guard of me and claimed that she was psychologically unstable to raise a child. The letter quoted as evidence the unfounded jealousy crises and fantasy accusations of betrayal she had allegedly made. My father had anticipated. Even before my mother could use the tests she had against him, he had turned the game. Now she was the villain of history. Worse, if she tried to show the photos and documents that proved his betrayal, he could claim that she had invented everything, that he had falsified the evidence because of paranoia. It was his word against hers, and he had money to pay a good lawyer. My mother was trapped. If he was silent, he would lose his marriage. If I spoke the truth, I could lose myself. But what she didn't know is that I had a plan, and the following Wednesday, everything would change. On Wednesday morning, while my father was at work, and my mother cried hidden in the bathroom looking at that subpoena, I took my bike and went to school with a mission. It was not to attend class. It was to talk to the only adult person who I conwire, Professor Conceição. Dona Conceição was my Portuguese teacher 2 years ago and has always been different from the others. She realized when a student had a problem at home, always asked if everything was fine, and more important, she really heard the answers. I knocked on the door of the teacher room during the recess. Marina, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be in the courtyard? Teacher, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. It's about my mother. She must have noticed my tone that was serious, because she called me inside and closed the door. What happened, my daughter? And then I told you everything. From the day of shampoo to the subpoena my mother had received. I told you about the photos I had seen, the hidden covenant, about the mysterious connection, how my father was manipulating everything to make my mother look crazy. Dona Conceição listened to me in silence, with an increasingly serious face. Marina, these are very serious accusations. Are you sure everything you are telling me? Teacher, I saw the pictures. I heard his telephone conversations. I know where he hides things. My mother hasn't been crazy. She's been wrong for years. She was thoughtful for a few minutes. Does your mother know you saw these things? No, she doesn't know anything. And if my father can prove that she is crazy, he will take my guard, and I will never be able to protect her again. Protect her like Marina? Being a witness. I saw everything. I can prove that she is not lying. Dona Conceição sighed deep. Marina, this is very complicated. Divorce issues, guard, are adult issues. You are very young for— Teacher, I interrupted. The lady always says we have to fight for what is right, that she can't let injustice go blank. My mother has been working from 15 to support our family. She has never hurt anyone. And now my father wants to destroy her just to be with his lover without problem. She stared at me for a long time. What do you want me to do, Marina? Do you know any lawyer? Anyone who can help my mother? Someone who doesn't cover too much? The lawyer, Esperança, comes. That same afternoon, Dona Conceição called my house and asked to talk to my mother. Rita, is Marina's Professor Conceição. Can I talk to you about an important subject? I was on the side, listening to my mother answer with a weak voice. Of course, teacher. Did Marina do something at school? No, it's not about it. It's about you. Marina told me about her situation. Familiar. And I would like to introduce you to a person who can help. My mother was silent. She was embarrassed, I knew. Teacher, I don't know what my daughter has been talking about, but Rita, Dona Conceição has interrupted in a firm voice. No one needs to go through it alone, and it's no shame to ask for help when being wronged. The following Saturday, we went to 3, me, my mother, and Dona Conceição. Even the office of Dr. Helena, a lawyer who Dona Conceição knew from the church and who worked with cases of domestic violence and complicated divorces. Dr. Helena was a woman in her 50s, gray hair stuck in a bun, reading glasses, and a security that conveyed security. When my mother started telling the story, she did not judge, did not make a pity. I just listened and wrote down everything in a block. Did you bring the tests you received? She asked. My mother took off the envelope that the mysterious woman had delivered in the church square. Dr. Helena opened and examined each photo, each document, each voucher. Rita, these proofs are very solid. They prove not only the betrayal, but also diversion of money from the couple to support the extramarital relationship. This is very serious. But doctor, my mother said with a trembling voice, he came up with the process first. He's saying, I'm crazy, that inventing things. This is a very common defense strategy. He anticipated because he knew that you could discover the truth. But now that we found out, we can reverse the situation. Then Dr. Helena looked at me. Marina, your mother told me that you witnessed some situations. Can you tell me what you saw? And I told you everything again. Telephone conversations, late arrivals, female perfume, blonde hair and shampoo, the hidden covenant. I told you how he humiliated my mother, how I spent money on her lover, as she said she had no money for things at home. Marina has an impressive memory for details, noted the lawyer. It can be a very important witness in the process. For the first time in weeks, I saw a glow of hope in my mother's eyes. Preparing the counterattack, Mother Reborn, Avutora Helena, traced a strategy. First, we were going to contest the separation process my father had opened. Second, we were going to present the tests of betrayal and ask for alimony to me and my mother. Third, we were going to ask him to leave home, as the house had been bought with money from the couple. But doctor, he will say that I falsified the tests, that I invented everything out of jealousy, my mother said, still insecure. Rita, that's why Marina's witness is so important. She saw everything happening. She can confirm the facts. In addition, let's do some investigations. Investigations. Let's hire a private detective to follow her husband for a few days, to get fresh, current evidence. And let's also find out who was the person who handed these first evidence to you. During the following week, my mother began to change. It was subtle at first, but I realized. She was more erect when she walked. He no longer lowered his head when my father spoke thickly at her, and especially, she stopped apologizing for things she hadn't done. On Thursday, when my father came home and shouted because the food was not at the temperature he liked, my mother simply said, Marcos, your food is in the fridge. If you want to heat up, the microwave is there. He was surprised. I was used to her running to warm, to serve, to please. What do you mean? You won't warm up? No. I also work all day. I also get tired. You're an adult. You can warm your own food. His face was priceless. It was as if my mother grew 10 centimeters in front of him. The discovery of the source, who was the mysterious woman. The private detective that Dr. Helena hired discovered interesting things. My father and Silvana were not discreet. They were always on the same motel, in the same restaurant, always on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But the most important discovery was who was the woman who had called my mother. It was Fernanda, ex-wife of the partner of the company where my father worked. She had discovered that her husband was cheating too, and when she investigated, she found that the betrayals of the two men happened together. They went out in pairs to find the lovers. She wanted to warn you, explained Dr. Helena, because she went through the same situation as you, and she knows how painful it is to find out alone. Fernanda agreed to be a witness in the process. She had pictures of the four together, my father, his partner, Silvana, and the partner's lover, on trips they made with their company's money. Everything was fitting. It wasn't just marital betrayal. It was the company's money appropriation. It was misuse of corporate resources to support lovers. The great exhibition. The day of the audience. The day of the audience arrived on March Monday. My father left home in a new suit, expensive tie, imported perfume. He was sure he was going to win. I had hired an expensive lawyer and had planted in his head that my mother was an unbalanced, jealous woman who invented stories. It's going to be fast, he said to Silvana on the phone, thinking no one was listening. The judge will see that she is crazy and will give me the guard of the girl. Then we can marry without problem. But when he arrived at the forum and saw my mother there, accompanied by Dr. Helena, Professor Conceição, me, and Fernanda, his smile disappeared. What a circus is this, Rita? He asked, annoyed. It's not a circus, Marcos. It's justice, my mother replied. looking into his eyes for the first time in years without fear. The audience was exciting. Dr. Helena presented all tests: photos, credit card vouchers, motel receipts, suspicious bank transfers. He showed that my father spent more than 2,000 reais a month with Silvana, while only 500 for home expenses. Fernanda witnessed about the trips that the two couples made, about how my father and his partner used the company's money to support lovers, and then it's my turn to speak. "Marina," said the judge, "can you tell me what you saw at home?" With a tile but firm voice, I told everything. The hidden telephone conversations, blonde hair in shampoo, the covenant, the female perfumes in his clothes. I told you how he humiliated my mother, how she made her feel guilty about things she had not done. "And how did you discover all this?" asked the judge. "Because of shampoo, Sir Judge. I was 13 when I changed my father's shampoo, mixing with my mother's. I thought it was nothing, but what I found in his hair, the blonde strands of another woman, destroyed my mother's world." The silence in the court was deafening. My father's lawyer tried to disqualify my testimony, saying that I was very young, that I could be inventing to defend my mother. But then, Dr. Helena presented the final test, the recordings. The private detective had recorded my father's telephone conversations with Silvana for a whole week. Conversations where he laughed at my mother's ingenuity, where he planned how they were going to get rid of it, where I talked about using my guard as blackmail. When the recordings played in that court, my father went white as a paper. The fall of the king, justice being done. The judge had no doubt. He canceled the separation process my father had opened and accepted the new process that Dr. Helena had presented. My father lost the provisional guard he had asked. He had to leave home immediately. He was forced to pay me alimony and compensatory pension to my mother. What's more, he had to return all the money he had diverted from the joint account to spend with Silvana. When we left the forum, my mother cried, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, liberation, justice. "Mother, are you okay?" I asked, hugging her. "I am, my daughter. For the first time in years, I'm really fine." My father still tried to argue on the door of the forum. "Rita, you can't do this to me. We're a family." My mother looked at him with a dignity I had never seen in her. "Marcos, family is the one who respects you, values you, really loves you. You destroyed our family 2 years ago when you chose another woman in my place." And turning her back on him, she said, "Let's go home, Marina. Our house." 3 days after the hearing, when we thought the worst had passed, my father tried the last blow. He showed up at home one morning when my mother was working and I was at school. He used the key he still had to come in and took all the expensive furniture, the television, the sound, even some clothes from my mother. When we got home in the afternoon, we found the house almost empty. Only the old furniture had townhouse. And at the kitchen table, a ticket. "Rita, if you don't remove the process, it will be worse. You don't know who you're messing with. I can still prove that you are an inappropriate mother and take Marina from you. Think about it." My mother read the note, and for the first time since the audience, I saw fear in her eyes again. "Mom, can he really do that?" "I don't know, Marina. I don't know." But what my father didn't know is that Dr. Helena had predicted this situation, and what she had prepared for the next day would end him once and for all. The morning after the furniture theft, Dr. Helena came home early, before my mother left to work. She had a smile on her face that I didn't understand, considering the desperate situation we were living. "Rita, how are you feeling?" she asked, sitting in the kitchen chair, one of the few my father had left because he was too old to interest him. "Evil, doctor, with fear. Can he really get Marina's guard?" "Rita, look at me," Dr. Helena said, holding my mother's hands. "Your ex-husband made a very serious mistake yesterday, a mistake that will be expensive for him." She opened the folder she had brought and showed several papers. First, he could not have entered the house. Even having key, after judicial separation, this configures invasion of home. Second, he took assets that legally belong to the couple. This is qualified theft. Third, the ticket he left is proof of threat and intimidation. My mother looked at the papers without understanding, right? "What does that mean, doctor?" "It means that in addition to losing definitely any chance of getting your guard, Marina, he will still be prosecuted criminally. And there is one more thing." Dr. Helena smiled in a way that made me sure she had something very good coming. "Yesterday, after you called me telling about the theft, I called the detective. He was following his ex-husband a week ago, as we agreed, and found something interesting. She took some new photos out of the folder. Marcos didn't take the furniture to his house. He took everything to a rented deposit. Do you know why? Because he and Silvana are planning to escape the city. They bought bus tickets to Sao Paulo for tomorrow morning." My mother was pale. "Run away? Why?" "Because the company found out about the diversion of money he was doing. His partner has already been fired, and Marcos was going to be fired too. They are trying to escape before the police arrive to them. The Operation Justice. The siege closes. That same morning, Dr. Helena called the police. as she already had all the organized tests, the documents of the betrayal, the proof of the company's diversion, the detective photos, the threat ticket, would still get an arrest warrant for my father. "Do you want to go along to see him being arrested?" she asked. "Doctor, Marina doesn't have to see this," my mother started to say. "Mom," I interrupted, I want to see him paying for what he did to you." At the age of 13, I might not have a total dimension of what was happening, but I knew it was the time for justice to come. And after all my mother had passed, I wanted to be there to support her. We went to the warehouse where my father was keeping our furniture. We arrived with the police around 2 in the afternoon. He was there with Silvana, organizing things in a truck, preparing to take it all away. When he saw the vehicles coming, his face was pure despair. "Marcos Oliveira Silva?" asked the delegate. It's me. But what? The Lord is arrested for misappropriation, qualified theft, invasion of home, and threat. "Wait! This is a mistake! These things are mine! I bought it with my money!" Dr. Helena approached and showed all the documents to the delegate. "Delegate, here are the evidence that these furniture was bought with money from the couple's communion. And here is the threat ticket he left to his ex-wife." My father looked at us three, me, my mother, and Dr. Helena, and for the first time I saw real fear in his eyes. It was no longer the powerful man who sent it home, who shouted, who humiliated. He was a criminal being arrested in the act. "Rita," he shouted as the police put handcuffs on him. "Rita, do something. You know I'm not a bad guy. We're a family." My mother looked at him with a calm that impressed me. "Mark, family is the one who respects you, values you, protects you. You chose to destroy our family. Now face the consequences." Silvana was also arrested. She cried, shouted that she had nothing to do with it, that it was all my father's fault. But the tests showed that she knew everything, that even helped him spend the diverted money from the company. When they were taken in the car, I felt a strange feeling in my chest. It was not happiness exactly. It was relief, as if a gigantic weight had come out of my shoulders. The Indain Amen and the house reborn, rebuilding life. In the following days, our house began to return to normal. The police brought all the furniture back. Dr. Helena got my father to be forced to return not only everything he had led, but also all the money he had diverted over the 2 years of betrayal. It was more money than my mother had never seen in life. Almost 50,000 rays he had spent with Silvana on hotels, restaurants, trips, expensive gifts. "Mom, we are rich," I played when the money was deposited in her account. "We're not rich, Marina," she smiled, "but for the first time in 15 years, we're free." With this money, my mother did something I had never seen. She spent on herself. He bought new clothes, went to the salon to make a modern haircut, bought a very beautiful red lipstick. When she came home after this personal care session, I hardly recognized. "Mom, you look beautiful. Do you think, daughter?" she asked, a little shy, looking in the mirror of the room. "I think you look younger, happier." And it was true. It was as if my mother was again the person she was before she was humiliated every day, before you have to apologize for breathing, before you feel invisible in your own home. She also did something that thrilled me a lot. She bought flowers home. No simple yellow flowers like those my father had given once for years. Beautiful, colorful flowers that she put in various corners of the house. "Why so many flowers, Mother?" "Because we deserve to live surrounded by beautiful things, Marina. For a long time, I thought you didn't deserve it. But now, I know I deserve it." The judgment, public justice. 6 months later, my father's criminal trial happened. He was unable to bail and got stuck all this time. When the day came to court, he was very different, thinner, older, with a defeated look. The prosecutor presented all the evidence: betrayal, misappropriation of the company, psychological manipulation, threats. The recordings the detective had made were reproduced in front of everyone. My mother and I were prosecution witnesses. When my turn came to talk, the judge asked, "Marina, can you tell us what your life was like at home before discovering your father's betrayal?" "Sir Judge, my mother worked all day, took care of the house, took care of me, and was still humiliated every day. My father said that her money was worth nothing, that she would do nothing, that if it weren't for him to be on the street, all the time he was spending our money with another woman." "How did you discover the betrayal?" "I was 13 years old when I changed my father's shampoo, mixing with my mother's. I thought it was nothing, but what I found in his hair, another woman's blonde hair, destroyed my mother's world. And that's when I started to pay attention to other things: the hidden conversations, the female perfumes in his clothes, the alliance he hid to give to his lover." "How did you feel seeing your mother being treated that way?" This question took me by surprise. I felt the tears coming. I felt powerless, Sir Judge. I was just a child. I didn't know how to help, but I knew my mother didn't deserve it. She was always the most working, more honest, more loving person I met, and seeing her feeling guilty about things she didn't do, apologizing for existing, It made me very angry. When my mother deposed, she spoke with a security that proudly, "Jurors, for 15 years I believed it was guilty of the problems of my marriage, that if I was a better wife, better housewife, more beautiful, more interesting, my husband would be faithful and affectionate. Today I know it was none of that. Today I know I was always enough. The problem was never me." My father was sentenced to 3 years in prison and had to pay a heavy compensation for my mother for moral damages. Silvana was sentenced to 2 years and also had to pay compensation. When we left court, my mother hugged me hard. "Thank you, my daughter." "Why, mother?" "Because I never gave up on me. Because I helped me find strength when I couldn't do it anymore." New life, full renaissance. 2 years have passed since that day. Today I am 22 years old, and I can tell this story with the certainty that everything was worth it. My mother went back to study. With the indemnity money, she took a technical nursing course and today works in a hospital, earning 4 times more than she earned as a cleaning assistant. She is proud of her work, has friends, goes to dinner on weekends. Last year, she started dating Dr. Jose, a widower doctor who works at the same hospital. He treats her like a queen. It brings flowers every week, only calls to know how was her day, includes her in the conversations, asks her opinion about everything. "Marina, that's how a man treats a woman," she told me once. "With respect, with affection, as a life partner." She lives in a new house, which she bought with her own money. It's small, simple, but it's hers. It has garden ahead, which she takes care of a lot of love. It has colorful flowers all year round. I graduated in law last year, inspired by everything we live in. I want to help other women who go through what my mother went through. I want to be as Dr. Helena was to us, the person who arrives at the right time to show that there is exit, that justice. My father left prison last year. He tried to get in touch a few times, asking for forgiveness, saying he wanted to recover the family. My mother was very clear. "Marcos, you were 15 to value your family. You chose to destroy. Now I have a new life, and you are not part of it." He insisted a few times, until Dr. Helena got a protective measure to prevent him from approaching us. Silvana also tried to contact, wanting my mother to intercede for her with the court. My mother didn't even answer. Final reflection, the power of love and courage. Today, when I look back, I see how much that 13-year-old girl who exchanged a shampoo without thinking twice eventually saved her mother's life. Not because I was brave or intelligent, but because sometimes the love of a daughter for the mother is stronger than any fear. My mother has always worried about protecting me, to make me not realize the problems. But in the end, I was the one who managed to protect her. I was the one who brought the evidence, who witnessed in court, who was next to her when her world collapsed. I learned that the real family is not the one who divides the same last name or the same house. Real family is the one who gets you up when you fall, who believes in you when you no longer believe in yourself, who fights by your side when everything seems lost. I learned that a woman does not need to accept crumbs of love, that she doesn't have to apologize for taking up space in the world, that she doesn't have to slow down to make others feel bigger. I learned that justice sometimes takes, but enough, and it is worth fighting for it, even when it seems impossible to win. Today is Sunday morning. I'm at my mother's house, in the kitchen that smells like fresh coffee and orange cake. She is making that fennel tea she always did when I was little and was sad. "Mother, you are fellow Z?" I ask, seeing her smile while moving the sugar in the cup. "I am, my daughter. Very happy. For the first time in adulthood, I'm completely happy." She sits next to me and hugs me, as she did when I was a child and had a nightmare. "Marina, thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for teaching me that it is always worth fighting for what is right, Mother." Outside, her garden is flowery. The flowers she plants with such affection are coloring the whole front of the house. It's sunny Sunday, those who make us believe that everything will be fine. And for us, everything really got fine. A small exchange in the bathroom. I thought it was nothing. But what I found in his hair destroyed my mother's world. But it was destroying the old world that we managed to build a new world. A world where my mother is respected, valued, loved. A world where she knows she deserves all the garden flowers, all the smiles of the day, all the love that life can offer. And it is in this world that we live today, together, happy and free.